Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live. This is episode number 50. My name is Jay Oza. I'm the host of the show, and my co host is Julie Wu Finkelstein. So, we do this show to talk about speech related topics, such as topics of discussion. That's what we're going to have today. And also things that we're trying to kind of help others who are in a similar situation, who want to speak in wide variety of situations. So we bring these topics here to discuss, and I discuss with Julie. And both Julie and I have like multiple functions actually. Both of us are mentors for the Coursera course, Introduction to Public Speaking, which is an excellent course, which I highly recommend if you are watching this video. It's a free course, but it's fairly comprehensive, taught by Dr. Matt McGarrity, who's an excellent professor out of University of Washington, and it's on the Coursera platform on demand. So you pretty much are on your own, and you can do it at your own pace. We do this show for a number of reasons. One is that Julie and I are both students of public speaking. We also like to teach others based on our learning. So, we're not like experts at a PhD level, but we may be a little bit ahead of you because we've been doing this now for, more than a year. This show, as you can see, it's 50th episode. So we're getting close to 1 year. The other thing we do is we coach people who have to give a speech, which can be very frightening. And it is important to have a coach when you have to give a high stakes or a high opportunity speech. There are things that we can pick up that you probably are not going to pick up on your own. The fourth thing is we also like to get better at it. So we practice. As you'll see, we have recorded videos for this show, and Julie has recorded 2 videos. And the last is we like to support people because public speaking is scary. You're actually out in front, you're being judged, and that scares people. It scares me, it scares everybody. It should scare you. Otherwise, if you don't care, if you don't take it seriously, then you're just winging it. So that's what we try to do. And today we have 3 episodes. The first episode is related to something that Julie and I do occasionally when it comes to coaching people who have to give a high stakes or high opportunity speech. So I've kind of laid out a methodology which I wanted to kind of discuss with Julie, like exactly if you have to give a high stakes speech, how much time do you need actually? And it can vary, but this is something that I put together that we can have a discussion around, and so you can get some idea. The second one, I think, Julie, this is your final. She's been recording these integral hacks, these 12 poses that she's been working on. She's been recording a video 2 videos, the talk that explains the pose, and then the demo video where she demonstrates the pose. And this is her final pose. I think, so she's been gradually improving, and I'll have Julie facilitate that session, kind of talk about it. And I think by doing all these 12, I think she has really figured it out how to do it. So I'd like to get Julie's perspective on her journey through these 12 videos that she's recorded. And the last segment is something I put together. Again, this is concept we always talk about, cold calling, right? Like you have to make calls to people. Usually you think of telemarketers, but cold calling is really, I like to put quotes around it, quote, cold calling. Cold calling is something we all do all the time, by the way. We don't realize it. We all think that cold calling is like we have to make a sales call. Technically, almost all calls are like when you talk to people, it is like a sales call, right? And here I call it the cold speaking. So let's say you're working on a speech, you got to try it, test it out. Nobody's going to tell you, hey, Jay, can you tell me what speech you're working on? You're going to have to cold speak. You have to bring it up in a conversation somehow, get the other person interested. And the reason for this is you can learn a lot. So I don't go into too much detail here, but it is a very good technique. A lot of the ideas come from books that I've read on cold calling. And you kind of have to be a fast learner because you don't have a lot of time. So I want to have a discussion around that, get Julie's perspective on it. So that's the show for today. And I'll give you a quick insight. It's something that I haven't done yet, but I'm thinking of doing starting this weekend. And it's part of my practice on how to become, I guess you can bluntly call it smarter. And what I'm going to do is, one thing I've already mentioned in the past that I take my iPhone, and I listen to it when I go for my walk. And my walk, I take this cross-country trail, which is about 3.5 miles. So it takes, and I don't walk fast because I want to finish what I'm listening to. Sometimes it's a podcast, sometimes it's an audio book, sometimes it could be an online course. So I'd like to at least walk for an hour. So I just thought of another idea. I said, you know what I'm going to do is take it to the next level. And I'm not even sure if I can even do this, but we'll see. So I'm thinking of taking a audio book, let's say if it's 8 hours long, and just go there and walk, and then take a break and walk, and try to finish it in like half a day. And again, on an iPhone, you can increase the speed to 2x to 3x. For me, 3x doesn't work. 2x is fine, it's fast, 2 times the speed of the actual recording, because you can make out most of the words. And after a while, you do get used to it. So I'm going to try that, and I will let you know how it works, whether I can even make it. So you can call it marathon learning, I guess. I don't know, walking learning. I don't know. I haven't come up with the right word. Maybe Julie has. So that's what I'm planning to do this weekend, if the weather permits. I don't want to do it if it's too hot. And I'll let you know how it goes. So if it works, then it's something I might ask you to try it too. Julie, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we can get this first segment going.
Good morning, Jay. Let's take a deep breath. So if you like to press your belly in and exhale, and then breathe in and let your belly out. And then while I'm talking, please feel free to do a couple more. 3 for me is kind of a magic number. So yes, thank you, Jay. My name is Julie Wu Finkelstein, and I put in the Wu because otherwise people think I'm German or something. Yes, I am about to finish the 12 steps. So today I'd like to talk about the last step, which is very important, and perhaps next week we can answer Jay's question, which is how to what have these videos taught me. So today my insight is don't give up, keep at it. If you're stuck, just rest. So I'm going to use my book as an example. When I finish I always have a very optimistic vision of anything I do, because otherwise, if I really think about how hard it really is, I won't do anything in my life. So it's kind of like a self-denial in a healthy way. But after I finished my book, I got some feedback which was useful, but not the whole of it. The message was, this book isn't useful. That's not what he said. That's what I got. But Jay, with your help, you said it's a good book. Don't give up. Keep at it. So, but I didn't know what else to do, because I could not just go right back and writing it. So I keep at it by doing the videos. And so that was a nice creative way for me to feel. I have done the moves for about 5 to 10 years, so I knew the moves inside out. But to feel the moves again in a way that I can communicate to the people and feel my own expression of that. So, so sometimes even resting is fine, doing nothing, because that's gestation. But in your own mind, do not say, I'm giving up. Just say, keep it. Oh, I'm taking a rest. I'm letting the seed germinate. It's out of my control, but it's not out of my intention. So I think that's a very powerful and yet peaceful way to go about making things happen in your life. So that's my message today. Keep at it. Be at peace. Let it germinate if you don't know what else to do. Thanks, Jay.
All right, Julie, thanks a lot. Yeah, a couple of comments on what you just said. I think what you said, that you somebody gave you some feedback and you kind of inferred from what he said that the book probably lacked certain focus or something like that. And I think that takes a lot of courage, because I just went through that exercise. And what happens is that when you're creating something, you have to be ready to accept the feedback. And even though you may not like it, it may not be what you want to hear, but once you give that to somebody, you give them the permission to give you feedback. At that point, what you really need to do is just listen and just don't try to argue or anything. It's that that person now has the ball. That person now gets to tell you what you want to hear. They may not have all the right mannerisms or the words to explain what they're saying. That's not the point. The point is you have given that person the permission to give you the feedback, and your job is to just accept, listen to it. You don't have to take all of it, but listen to it, sleep on it, and see if there's anything there that the person said it can be applied. And I just went through that exercise, and I think it is tough. But until you do that, you can't really get better at it. You got to be able to know how to do that. So I think, Julie, that the feedback that you've gotten for your book is quite valuable. Sometimes you have to look at it from that person's perspective. Where is he or she coming from in giving you that feedback? And then the way I look at it, it should make you think. And if you think and then discuss it, but a lot of times what happens is that people cannot handle feedback, and that makes it very hard to create something. And that's the process that I'm kind of going through right now, trying to get feedback to make the book that I'm writing better. So I think it takes a lot of courage, and that's part of. And once you do that, that's also part of growing as a person who's trying to create something. So that's how I would take it. That gives you an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I can now make it better. See if there is something there that I can improve upon. And I'm sure there's a lot of things you can improve upon. So, okay. So at this point, I'm going to take a brief pause and move to our first segment. Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live. This is episode number 50, and this is the first segment. In this first segment, I want to talk about the kind of the process. Like recently, Julie and I had the opportunity to coach somebody who had to give it was a high opportunity speech, but it could be a high stakes speech. And it gave me something to think about, because this particular person, I don't believe, gave a lot of lead time. It was an important speech that she's giving to this conference, and I think it's going to be today or tomorrow, and I hope she does a great job. But it got me to think that if next time somebody comes to me, what should I tell that person realistically? And I think that if you're going to give a high stakes or high opportunity speech, the one thing you got to really have first is time. You can't give a high stakes, high opportunity speech if you got like 2 weeks notice, and plus you're doing other things. You just don't have enough time. So I came up with, and this is something that I'm going to be expanding upon later on, not in this discussion, but I think you need to at least give close to 6 weeks time. And the reason is that speech is like an incremental process. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do it today. I'm going to put in the morning, I'm going to do this. In the afternoon, I'm going to do this. And in the evening, I'm going to do this. Yeah, you could do it, but that's like you're cramming it. And remember, this is a high stakes speech. There's a lot riding on it. And also, if it's a high opportunity speech, it could make a big difference in your life. So you want to give that much amount of time so that when the time comes to actually give a speech, you will not be nervous. I mean, you'll be a little bit nervous, but you will at least have gone through everything, saying, look, I did everything possible, and now just let it ride, And that's how you want to be prepared when you are giving a high stakes or a high opportunity speech. So some of the things that and again, I think the ordering here may not be right. And I'm kind of thinking that what I put in this in my video was that first, just get down your ideas. Like, what do you want to talk about? What is the main idea? And there's a whole process there. The first thing that I don't put this as the first thing, but I think it could be depending on how you want to do it. What I say in the first thing is to come up with a rough outline and just talk, just do like kind of free talking, just get it out of the way, just record it start to finish, so at least you have something recorded that you can look at and saying, exactly, is this the way I want to sound? And remember, this is like your crappy first version. You're not going to like it and you shouldn't like it, but at least it'll give you some idea what you're working with. So that's what I came up with first. Now I had a kind of a thought that maybe the first thing should be to develop the message, but message development is actually can take a lot of time. I just want something done so you feel like there's a small win here, that I got something recorded. Now I can just make it better. And then you want to work on your message. After you develop your message, the third thing you want to work on is work on the entire content, get the content done. So at least you know what you're talking about. Once you have the content done, then you can move into the different aspects of the delivery part, the performance part, such as your voice. You got to integrate it, right? The voice, the body language, the gestures, and creating a memorable moment with a particular story, and maybe a signature moment in the speech where people can say, that's what that speech is about. And then after you have all of that, you've got to give at least 1 week where all you're going to do is just get into the flow. So that if somebody wakes you up at 3 a.m. in the morning, you can get up and give that speech. You want to be that ready when you're giving a high stakes or a high opportunity speech, because when you're up on the stage, you want to have, I was just writing down and I said there are only 3 things you really need to know when you get on the stage that you want to kind of go in, because you have rehearsed it so well. There are only 3 words: breathe, pause, enjoy. That's it. Breathe, pause, and enjoy. Those are the only 3 things you should be thinking about when you're on stage, because everything else you have rehearsed it so well that, like I said, I can wake you up at 3 a.m. in the morning, call you and say, Julie, give me your speech right now. You should be able to do it. And just keep those 3 words in mind. I got to breathe. I got to pause at appropriate places that you have identified. And I got to have fun, because if you're not having fun being on the stage, the audience will say, this guy is like, I don't think he's enjoying being up there. So those are the 3 things you want to keep in mind. And then the last thing I'll point out is after you give the speech, you want to kind of write down immediately the initial impression, and then give some space and do an assessment, do a post-mortem, because you want to this is a learning experience. So as you can see, the whole speech delivery is a lengthy process. You can't just wing it. And each of these things take time, okay? You got to spend some time, because giving a speech, performance cannot be created overnight. It takes long time to create it. You got to really keep on doing it, and then eventually you'll start feeling it too. And you got to start feeling it so that when you're on the stage, you will know exactly how to move, where to move. Everything is integrated. That's what actors do, right? When they're performing, everything is so well integrated that you don't even feel like, you feel like that's a real person. And that's what you want to really do. You want to come across like you're the real person. You are the person. You are the message. So that's what I think is really needed, that you need to give quite a bit of time if you want to give a good to great high stakes or a high opportunity speech. So Julie, I'll turn it over to you now. What do you think of it? Like how much time and the preparation that's really needed based on the people that you have worked with and some of the speeches you may have given, that you think is sufficient? Because obviously we're not going to, these are not like TED Talks. TED Talks, they talk 300 hours. But I've come up with, like, you need to focus on one aspect each week, and then you'll be ready. And then 1 week before that, all you're just doing is just rehearsing, so that when you get on the stage, you can just knock it out of the park. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jay. I think that this was a very refreshing title. In a certain sense, you're taking the lean speech method and taking it on to the show on the road. In the sense of the lean speech method, you have the concept of these are the things you need to do, and this is how you're giving the speech. And I get the sense you were focusing on the process. This one, you're focusing on you're still focusing on the steps, but really what you're saying is the experience at the end is important. So it's almost like what I would call reverse engineering. Stephen Covey's book says, begin with the end in mind, you know. Um, Breathe, pause, and enjoy. Yes. So I resonate with what you're saying. So I'm going to add my own piece to it. Is that when you first look at the project system lifecycle, they call it the waterfall model. You know, you look at and there's 5 major milestones, and traditionally in the history of project lifecycle, that's how it got started. But in reality, everything's happening at the same time, right? Even when you're envisioning the project, you already have the end in mind, you already know the steps. So my friend who is a PhD in the IT area, he created this thing called the spiral model or the hurricane model, in the sense that there's always the heart of what's happening right now, whether you're doing a message, or where you're doing a rehearsal, or where you're envisioning the speech, or where you're cultivating the experience. But surrounding it, what's happening all the time is all this whole process that's churning and churning. And I think that's the basic underlying idea of the agile model, the ROT model. So that's one thing, is like the concept is great. In implementation, it's actually much more dynamic than that. But I think you have to start with the concept you put down, which is the major milestones. Get started, get the message clear, get the components flow organized, practice and rehearsal until it's clean, and then enjoy the experience. Those are the milestones I get, and then do a post-mortem. Well, I want to add to that's what I got out of your model. What I want to add to it is an underlying level, which I'm going to start the. We're finished on, as you know, I have this reading and discussion event on Saturdays, and we're finishing our current book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I'm moving it into more of a discussion, reading, and project practical application orientation. And I think no matter what we're doing, even when I'm talking here or doing a speech, there's always underlying river that's running through. And that is, am I being me? Are you hearing me? Am I credible to you? Am I telling you something about me that you like? So in addition to the message, there's a relationship going on between me and the audience. And you want to create this message that flows through in your life. And you definitely want it in your public speaking. So my next project in the Saturdays Reading and Discussion group will be called Finding Out Your Authentic Attributes and Your Strengths, and communicating that by branding yourself that way. So if I want to show that I am systemic, I'm just making up words here, I'm creative, and I'm a good listener, those are attributes of me that has to come through every time I interact, and certainly in my speeches. So I think look underneath the message, the information, look at what you want and what your relationships are in any speech, large or small. But especially important large, because your impact is scaled up to such a massive level. So that's what I have today.
As far as so one of the thing that that I'm interested in finding out from you is like, let's say you have to give a speech. Somebody comes to you and says, Julie, I have to give a speech. How much time do you think? Don't assume anything. Assume nothing. That you just know that the person has to give a speech. Then you have to work with what you have. Okay. How much time? And the person says it could be a high stakes speech. It could be a high opportunity speech. Because you know what, people are not going to be like you and me, are going to go through the entire developing the public speaking skills, right? Because that could be a very lengthy process. But somebody has not gone through that, and they come to you and says, Julie, I need your help. How much time do you think that that person really would need in order to be ready, do the maybe not great job, but let's say at least get them into the good side, so the person can at least do a good job, whether when that person is giving a high stakes or a high opportunity speech. How much time do you think that person really needs? I know
Um,
it varies, but I mean, what do you think is a reasonable amount of time that that person, because everybody that has to do these kind of speeches, they also have a lot of other things going on. So the thing is, how much time do you think that is reasonable that that person can deliver a good speech?
Jay, I'm going to take this from a different perspective than you do. What you are saying is someone comes to you um, and say, I need just coaching skills. I need you to help me put together a speech and deliver with great aplomb. And what I hear you say is, don't come to me, and I'm making it dramatic here. Don't come to me if you have less than 6 weeks because it ain't just gonna work. Um, my own experience is like when I have given speeches, and I've given speeches at at a user group called Guy International. I've given some speeches at local user groups. Frequently, the preparation itself takes years because like there's a project I'm doing and I'm speaking on that. On the other hand, I could be asked to stand up and talk about that uh, for 10 minutes at an impromptu invitation. So my own personal practical experience of public speaking is that you gotta be prepared all the time, but it could take years to get there. Kind of like Winston Churchill's position with the war, right? I take my whole lifetime to it. What I'm doing right now is very interesting with a couple of people. I'm going to develop it into a more program-oriented. Is there are people like one, as I mentioned, this musician friend of mine and a coach friend of mine. They are working with me to develop the message and the identity. So I give them questions because I know what I think would drive them toward the articulation of their identity. They do a video and I evaluate that. And so that is, in fact, there's a person who says, I'm making a speech. She drove that. So I want to prepare the people I coach that they have a great message before they even go, and that they're comfortable in public, they have a great message, and that they will be a presence in YouTube. And then opportunities will come, and they will come forth as a professional and excellent speaker in the industry of their expertise. In the coaching area, in the musician area, my musician friend will be expected to do TV interviews. So I don't want him to do that 6 weeks from then. I want him to start now because that's his vision. I already know that that's a major contributor to his success and his visibility. So I start now. I started last month.
Right. The reason I ask that is that a lot of times the people that well, one thing you can do is saying, hey, since you didn't develop the public speaking skills, I can't help you. Okay, I can only help people who have developed the skills, and then I can focus on the speech, because you will at least have all the knowledge and you have gone through and tested out all the different speeches, so now I can help you. I think that's asking a lot, if you ask me, because a lot of the people don't do that. So anyway, this is a pretty big topic, and I think we covered just the
Yeah, I agree. I guess I am saying that. I'm saying that if you have a speech that you need to do in quick time, go to Jay.
and I'll say, okay. No, I think this is a very important point, because a lot of people. I mean, let's face it, Julie. You and I come across these type of people. They wait till the last moment. They are not going to go through the Coursera course or some of the things that you and I have discussed is regarding the 3:30, develop it into habit. We do this every week, so we know how difficult this is. But a
Yeah.
lot of people out there, they're focused on their job, on their expertise. And because of that, they think that when there's an opportunity, they all want to give a speech because they realize it could change their life. It could be a big step for them. But they just don't realize how much time they would need to spend. So that's the reality. That's not what ideal situation, but that's the reality that I think most of the people that we are going to coach are going to be in. They're going to come to us and saying, I got a speech to give. And then we'll ask them, well, when is it? Well, it's in a couple of weeks. And we are like, oh no, this is not gonna go well. Couple of weeks? Here we spent, this is our 50th episode and you got a couple of weeks? Okay, good luck, And the thing I'm pointing out is that you only get one shot. Like you said, when you want that visibility, and nowadays with the video, internet, YouTube, it gets recorded. You're not going to go and be able to erase somebody's video that's been posted. So you're stuck with it. You've got to, it's like you are how you look, right? So, all right, Julie, thanks a lot. Appreciate your input into this. And at this point, like I said, this is a big topic, and we just kind of covered it. We'll have to revisit this again, and I'm sure we will, because coaching people who have to give a speech is a common theme on the show, and that's what we're here for. And we're trying to tell you that this is, if you have time constrained, at least try for 6 weeks, so that way you're not under pressure at the end trying to get it done. You can do it once in a while, but you never know when you're on the stage what can happen if you're not well prepared. It's a totally different animal. All right, at this point, I'm going to take a brief pause and we'll move on to our second segment. Okay, welcome back to Speech Talk Live, episode 50. My name is Jay Oza. I'm the host, and my co-host is Julie Wu Finkelstein. In the second segment, we're going to continue with Julie's integral hack show and tell video that she's been working on for the past 12 weeks. This is the last one, and I'm going to turn it over to Julie to kind of talk about her journey. I mean, not journey, just this particular specific video. I think next week she'll talk about what it was like starting from the first one to the 12th one. What did she learn? And did she see an improvement from the beginning till the end? So for this one, I will, at this point, turn it over to Julie to talk about this particular videos for this pose that she has recorded. All right, Julie, take it over.
Thanks, Jay. So today I want to talk about the pose itself a little bit because it's so powerful and yet so easy. Also, I want to leave plenty of time for your feedback, and I just want to acknowledge one of the suggestions which I implemented and the impact on that. So the sequence will be, I'll talk about the move, I'll talk about your suggestion and its impact, and the third one is receiving your feedback. So this is the last move. It's what I call the resting or the repose or recollection reorganizing move. I know that's a lot of terms, so I apologize for that. So basically, this is the end of the row. This is a 12 pose, but in all 12 poses, this one particularly so is you can do them standalone. And this one is very significant, and I want to emphasize the importance of it because it appears so easy. And in our society of action, we might say, oh, I've done the work, I just leave. And I want to use the metaphor of you've done the work, but you got to take the money to the bank. Otherwise, you don't have it. So this is the taking the money to the bank move, which is apparently very simple. Lie down, make yourself comfortable. You might want to prop something on your head or your knee so that you're relaxed. Stay awake as much. Excuse me. Stay awake as much as you can and do deep belly breathing. Keep your eyes open or closed deliberately, and you will find that once you get that going, much like the centering pose, you will be able to integrate that into your life. So my example was what I want to talk about was Jay, in terms of your suggestion and how it was how I did it and the impact is you suggested that I add this little breathing or something to get people engaged. I haven't had a chance to add something for them at the end, simply because 5 minutes is not a lot of time. But I thought it was very creative, and it connects to some idea that to be developed of a signature or branding of who I am. So when people connect me to this type of process, and the interesting thing was I posted the video on Facebook, and my niece, who is a VP at either JP Morgan, I think Morgan Stanley in IT, whose life is very stressful. Maybe she's not a VP. She was one, but then, she quit her job. But anyways, the whole point is her life is very stressful. And so she put it on the Facebook that she started doing the breathing because she saw, she just said she started breathing. And I want to underscore that because of your suggestion, I put it on the Facebook, and someone from my family benefited. And not only that, who knows how many other people were slightly shifted into with that orientation. So I just want to acknowledge that and say, in this case, there was something explicit, but we never know how far our actions are impacted, especially before we do it. So say thank you and get feedback.
Yeah. First of all, let me congratulate you on finishing these 12 poses. I mean, again, consistency is very important, and you should be proud of that you did the 12. And I think you kind of, were very transparent. You were very vulnerable. You went through it, showed exactly what it was like the first one to the 12th one. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. A lot of people don't like to, and that's why I think you're kind of moving into a different level where you're basically are being very authentic, saying to people, look, I'm not an expert here. I'm basically like you, but I'm going through the effort. It's the effort that I'm enjoying. Some of it is not going to be good, but at the end, you got to stick to the effort. And if you stick to it, then that is your reward. I think there's some philosophy behind that. And I think that's what this shows. And if you notice it, you made incremental improvement. And the last one, I think you really, really showed how confident you are in your message. And I think you found your voice here. I think you should listen to these last two videos. The talk video was just amazing. I think when I was listening to it, I said, wow, is that the same Julie that that I saw in that first video? You came across somebody who knew what she was doing, but at the same time, there was a lot of empathy that you really believe in this. And it came through clearly. It wasn't like something like, I'm so unsure of this. I'm not 100% sure whether this. You were just confident. You were empathetic. And you were really there to serve the people that are watching the video. And that came through very clearly to me. And I think I would basically follow that in all your future videos, that my purpose is threefold. If I can achieve these three things, then I will feel happy that I served my purpose of recording this video, because I want to help people. I want to be authentic. I want to put everything on the line. And I'm going to be confident because this is my voice. This is what I believe in. And I think that's what I got from it. And just that mannerism kind of attracted me to watch the video more closely, because I'm like, wow, I better listen to this woman. So I think that was very important. And I think what I really like about what you've done, Julie, is that you're willing to try new things. You're willing to take some risks, and incremental risk, but you are willing to take the risk. You're not just saying, hey, this has worked, so I'm just going to stick with it. I think you're saying, I know what's working, but I'm willing to test myself. And I think that's a very good quality. And I don't know if this is something you do a lot, but now I'm noticing it because I've seen the entire journey. And that's something you can talk about next week. What did you learn from recording these 12 videos about yourself? Because this was like a continuous theme, all 12 videos, that now what you plan to do for the next, when you actually work on the book. And I think this will help your book a lot. I think that's what I'm thinking, that now you have it on the video, you know exactly how do you want to communicate this message. So again, congratulations. I mean, this is a good accomplishment. You stuck with it. You did all the 12 poses. And the only thing now is to just learn from it and see how you can make it better. Like some of the things that you just mentioned, what is the signature? Because these are the things you tested here. So now when you make this a companion video to your book, you'll know exactly the format to follow. And then after that, maybe in the next book, you can change it around and saying, okay, I like what I did here, but now I think I can do something better. And the key thing is, by doing it, you're learning. And this kind of ties into the next topic we're going to turn into, like cold speaking. By doing it, you are now learning that I can make improvements. So Julie, any closing thoughts on this, and then we can wrap this up. You're muted.
I agree with what you're saying. I just want to appreciate the space you create and the personal attention you've given me in the support of this project. And and I know this is only stage one. So thank you for future support as well.
Yeah, I think it's important that because I really believe in this. I think her name is, she's a professor at Harvard, Teresa Amabile. She's a professor, and she wrote this book. I don't know if the book is called Small Wins, I think. And I think in life, we need small wins. We always want the big win because everybody looks at the big win like, oh, he's a big winner. But in life, to succeed yourself, inwardly, you need small wins. Every day is a small win. This is your small win, because you went through recording each 12 videos is a small win. But now when you add it all up, it turns into a much bigger win. You have a body of work now. And once you have a body of work, you can then tweak it, make it better. So I think this is a very good example on how to do it right. And this is what we try to do on this show, right? We try to, every show we finish is a small win because we did it. And little by little, at the end of the show, we will have done 50 shows. And that's adds up. Each time it adds up, right? It's like a grain of rice. You keep adding it and you really don't realize how many rice that adds up to after a while. So at this point, Julie, I'm going to take unless you have anything else to say, I'm going to take a brief pause and we'll move on to our last segment. Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live. This is episode number 50. This is the third segment. My name is Jay Oza, and I'm the host of the show. My co-host is Julie Wu Finkelstein. And in this third segment, it's a topic that I kind of thought about because I'm kind of big into that a speech is something you just don't go out there and give it until you have it tested. And one of the ways to test is some concept I came across from sales. And in sales, one of the things that people always tell that you have to be good at is cold calling. Now, a lot of people hate cold calling, and that's why they can't sell. But let's face it, we're all salesmen, right? That's the new thing. According to Dan Pink's book, we're all in sales now. To sell is human. I think that was his book. So if you are a salesman, one of the things we all do is we have to cold call. Now, we don't like to think of it because that word kind of scares the hell out of people. Like, oh, cold calling, rejection. As soon as I call, they'll hang up on me, because that's what we do to other people, right? As soon as they call, say, not now, get lost. That's what we do. So we think like, oh my God, it's going to come back to us now. So we don't like cold calling. But cold calling, in my opinion, is the most important skill for success in anything. Because cold calling means that you don't know whether you're going to get rejected. That's it. That's what cold calling is. Now, rejection is not bad, right? Rejection is like golf. Golf's a game of misses. Life's a game of rejection. Every rejection, there's something to learn. And it's that see, a lot of people hate cold calling because they don't want to learn. They're scared. Like, if I cold call you, you got to say yes. Otherwise, I'm a failure. No, that's not what the cold calling is all about. That if somebody gives you a script and you keep doing it, yeah, then you are going to be rejected. And then it becomes a numbers game. When I look at cold calling, to me, what that means is that every time I cold call somebody, there is certain information that I'm extracting from that person. So I've taken this concept and I said, well, why can't we do the same thing when we're working on a speech and you're working on multiple speeches? Let's say you have a message, you have this, you have that. Like every speech, I like to chunk it into 3-minute speeches, right? So you got like lots of different elevator speeches, if you want to call that the 3-minute speeches. You got lots of elevator speeches. And you should somehow, it's something we have discussed in the past, but you've got to somehow bring it up when people are not expecting. It's like cold calling, right? You get a call when you're not expecting. That's what cold calling is. It's cold. It's coming out of nowhere, right? Well, that's what you should be doing also. And you might say, well, Jay, like I can't just go and talk about something the other person's not interested. Well, get them interested. They're not going to tell you, hey, Julie, can you tell me about your last pose number 12? They're not going to do that. You got to say, hey, I did something very interesting. I just recorded a video on this integral yoga pose. And that person, if he has any sense of social skills, will say, oh, really? What was that about? Boom, you got in now. You're in. That's your cold speaking call you just made. So at that point, and I like Julie to try that. She should try that, saying, hey, Jay, let me tell you about this video that I recorded. And it would be a good practice for Julie to kind of try it on me. And that way she can cold speak about this work that she just recently did. Make it short. Don't get too long. And you got to keep practicing that, because that's how you get comfortable. And every opportunity you get, people will give you 2 minutes to cold speak about any topic you want to, provided that you kind of do it in the right way. And I think this is something that I tend to do a lot. And sometimes it drives people crazy, but I don't care, because the fact is they're not going to come and ask me, so Jay, what book did you read? So Jay, what TV program did you watch? They're not going to do that. You got to kind of broach it, right? You got to cold speak. And that's what I call it, cold speak. There might be some other names to this, but I think it's a good way to practice becoming a more confident speaker, because speaking is something where you're under control. You got to take the lead, and people are not going to come to you and say, and I think it'll increase your confidence. Julie, what do you think of this, about this? I call it cold speaking. There might be another better name for it, but what do you think? Like when people, like a lot of people out there are working on their speeches, but then they think the only time they ever give that speech is if they get in front of the stage, the so-called stage. And what I'm saying is the stage is virtual. There's a virtual stage out there. You get to decide when you want to speak about that topic, and you create that stage. You don't have to get on the real stage out there.
Yes, Jay, I love the term cold speaking, because that's what I feel like sometimes. Part of the changes I have since doing this public speaking, and particularly practicing on Speech Talk Live, is I have recently made a habit of speaking to strangers. You're sitting in a theater next to someone. I don't really need to present myself. I just want to make a connection. So I would say, where did you get that popcorn? Yesterday I waved to someone who didn't see me, didn't wave back. It's terrifying to think, and you're getting rejected, and it's a human ego condition. But I like your point that it's all a feedback loop. There's a current change in management philosophy, in the sense that success is not as important as information. So there's a tech talk that talks about Google specifically have 2 parallel projects going in apparently opposite directions. So at least one will fail. But what happened was both failed. The information from both became a synthesis of a direct new approach. And also in the field of artificial intelligence, in the first milestone is just all failure. So what it is just collecting information into the feedback loop. I'm going to stay technical because I don't want to dumb it down at this point, because I don't have the skills necessary to bring it down to a simpler level right now. So I think in the other concept in the computers is bootstrap. You start with nothing. So to me, code speaking is the beginning of bootstrapping into something. And then also whether success or not is all part of the information for growth. And it's really discovery because you don't know what you will end up with. Like I didn't know my niece was going to take a deep breath because of my video. There's no way I could make those connections. But code speaking is reaching out into the dark and trying to connect with somebody, a real human being. I think it's so important. I think that human beings are not made to sell. Sales is a component of connection. I think human beings are made to connect. I will make that distinction. So code speaking is reaching out in the dark to make a connection. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I think you said it well. I just use the word cold speak. I think at the end, the outcome is that, right? The outcome is to form a connection with somebody, and to form that connection with somebody is because see, the thing is, the way I look at it is that I mean, you don't want to become like because see, here's the thing. One of the principles of cold calling is that a lot of times if you think you have something important, like I'm just using the sales concept, right, and applying to cold speaking. So you have a lot of things that you really passionately believe in, the things that you're doing, which you think if somebody's interested, shows enough of an interest, you want to talk about it, right? Because you got to have like life has you have some kind of purpose in life, right? In sales, let's say if you and I are very good coaches and we think we can help people, the people who need help aren't going to come to us. They're not going to just come to us and saying, hey, today I want to learn about coach. No, you got to convince them that they don't know. If they know the solution to a problem, they come to us. A lot of times they don't even know the problem even exists. And that's what cold calling does. Cold calling is to kind of hit you by 2x4 and saying, hey, there's a problem out there that you may not be aware of. And in speaking, it's sort of like that. People don't come to you and saying, hey, Julie, I'm just going to take a wild guess, but I bet you're into yoga. That doesn't happen, right? You have to create that interest so that what you just said is right, that the ultimate end result is that you form a connection. But that connection cannot just be formed if you just wait for that person. This sounds very elementary, by the way. This is exactly the advice I've been giving to my son, who's in middle school, and he's been having some problem with some girls. Like he wants to talk to them, but he doesn't even know how to do that. So I know exactly. I kind of took some of that idea and I said, listen, just talk. If they don't talk, just ignore them for a day. And next day, everything will be fine. So anyway, Julie, any closing thoughts before we end the show?
Yeah, I think that's a really important topic. It connects into many things. So I'm sure we'll revisit your cold speaking concept again. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the term I'm using. I need to develop it further, but I just said, let's just get it out there, and I'll just cold speak this topic. Cold topic. This was like not a cold speaking. This was a cold topic. We don't know which way it was going to go. So sometimes you have to come up with cold topics. You don't know where that's going to go. But it seems like it needs further development, and I'll work on that and see where we can kind of formalize it. Because I think people out there want to connect, but there's a fear and all these other aspects of it that needs to be discussed. So Julie, any comments? I think we're pretty much at the end here. Any comment on the show before I close it out? Okay, thanks a lot. So let me thank Julie again for participating as usual. She's a tremendous co-host. She really puts in a lot of effort, and today, was a milestone. She finished her 12th video of her pose, which is there to really simple poses to help people. And let me tell you, even if you can do one, that's a big step. But these are 12 simple poses that if you just do these, believe me, that's more. If you're going to go beyond that, then join some fancy yoga class somewhere. But a lot of people don't even do that. They're so busy. So this is designed for people to take some time out of their busy life, work, whatever, and do these simple poses to kind of energize themselves and kind of know who they are, because that's what these exercises are for. And at this point, I'd like to say that if you're watching this live or watching this later, thank you. Any comments, questions, or suggestions you have, reach out to us. And I always like to say, speaking is very important. People judge you very quickly by the way you speak in any situation, no matter what it is. That's what we discussed with cold speaking. And I always tell people, you are how you speak. That's how people judge you. And often you do not get a second chance. So you got to start working on it now. You got to keep practicing often and come up with a methodology so that you are confident in any situation, so that you create that virtual stage. That stage doesn't have to be a physical stage. Every time you're speaking is a stage, and you get to control that. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you for the next episode, number 51. And at this point, this is a wrap. We're done. So thank you.